So, General Election 2024, I know, I'm as excited as you are. Now, if you don't like spoilers, look away, because Labour are going to win this by a landslide and the Tories are going to get absolutely battered. But I think what Labour are going to keep telling people is, woo, if you don't vote for us, the Tories are going to get in. Now, in a seat like Bristol Central, that's definitely not true. It's not true anywhere. But it's even less true here, because the fight here is between the Labour Party and the Greens. The Tories are nowhere here. And the Greens have a decent chance of actually winning this seat. You see, in the local elections, the Greens became the biggest party of Bristol Council. They won an extra 10 seats, but they won every single seat in Bristol Central. So they think, with their co-leader Carlo Denny standing here, that they could defeat Thanga Debonair. Now, she's a Labour Shadow Cabinet Minister, so that's quite a big scalp. So I want to meet Carlo Denny, I want to meet voters, I want to chat to them, see what they think. I want to try and speak to the Labour team. I'm a former lifelong Labour voter, so, you know, hopefully they'll still talk to me. And I want to see, is this the red seat which could turn green even during a Labour landslide? How are you feeling about the election?
A little bit excited, I think.
Oh, excited. Yeah. Why are you excited?
Just because I think it's time for a change, so.
How do you normally vote?
I would normally vote Green. And I'm weighing up whether or not to do that again this time. Because I think there definitely needs to be a change of government. Mm-hmm. So I think I'd probably be more likely to vote Labour this time, just to be certain that.
But even though, because Labour are going to win a landslide.
Yeah,
so,
that is true.
So with the Greens.
So that's something I'm weighing up at the moment, whether or not I want to sort of go for what I want to do, or whether or not I should.
How are you feeling about the election? Excited?
Don't really care, to be honest. I think it feels inevitable that Keir's going to win, and with his brand of kind of centre ground, middle management politics, what's there to be excited about?
I think whoever's tactically, just not a Tory.
What about the Greens?
Well, possibly.
Yeah? They've not won you over, I can tell.
No, but then Bristol's a very green city. We've got a green council, got a green council leader now. So also obviously just got rid of Marvin. So it's an opportunity to show us what they're about, what they want to do. Hopefully, they don't get that opportunity often around the country and councils.
So they need to spend the next few weeks convincing people like you, really.
Yeah, and unfortunately, decisions that Keir Starmer's taken at the moment, I mean, it's so frustrating. This is the opportunity to completely get rid of the Tories, and I just feel, I don't think it's going to be the landslide they think it is, and I think some of the decisions he's made about certain things, we're going to lose a lot of votes. Mainly what's happening, well, today in Rafa, for example.
Yeah. I'm a traditionally Labour voter, and I cannot get behind them in light of what a lot of their prominent figures have said in the face of what was an obvious atrocity of unprecedented in so many ways. So I've lost the verve, so to speak, the impetus.
How do you feel about the Greens?
Well, quite positive, because the Greens, I think, in the main have been they always have very good policies, don't they? And sometimes, I've thought of voting for them, but at the same time, a lot of the elections we're facing right now, the Labour vote was quite important because we were fighting. But now with an obvious Labour victory, I think I'm going to look a little bit wider than Labour. I'm certainly going to look a little bit wider than Labour.
But yeah, for this one I'm going to be voting Labour, just because I think we just need to get them out as much as possible. So I'm very excited. Go Labour! But fuck Keir Starmer, man. He's just an action man. I don't feel anything with him.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Kind of, woo, Labour, fuck Keir Starmer. Wow. How are you feeling about the election?
Quite negative. I've got no idea who I want to vote for this time. The main parties both seem really bad. So I'm completely stuck.
What do you think about the Greens? They've got a big chance in Bristol Central.
Well, I don't know. I mean, morally that sounds like a great thing. I'm not sure whether they've got the strength to be able to actually be a serious political party. Maybe they will. Maybe we need something different like that. Who knows? I'm not against the idea.
Do you think, is there much enthusiasm?
I don't think there is this year. I think in the past there always was, but I think now it's almost a choice between two or three, but very similar seeming parties. So it doesn't really seem like a choice so much as different variations of exactly the same thing.
How do you feel about the election?
It's a bit bleak. I'm a Labour Party member. I voted for Keir Starmer before he came in, but he's sort of totally betrayed everything he stood on to start with.
Do you feel you were kind of lied to?
I was deeply lied to. I was obviously lied to. We all were. And obviously it's incredibly frustrating to see him just ultimately run himself as the anti-Corbyn for the entire time since. That's not enough to set yourself up to run a country for the next 5 years.
Yeah, as a Labour Party member, what would you say they stand for at the moment? What's the cut-through message?
Very little. They seem to stand mostly for not making things worse as opposed to making anything better. And they seem to stand primarily for not being Jeremy Corbyn, for not being the Labour left.
Can I ask you?
I don't like stopping. So my stand.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. Okay.
I think Starmer's going to win begrudgingly. Nobody wants him to, but he will.
Yeah, we had someone say vote Labour and then F Starmer, which I thought was quite interesting.
But it's not an election between Starmer and your ideal Labour Party leader. It's between Starmer and Sunak. So.
But what do you think about the Greens? Because they could win in Bristol Central.
Well, because the election's happening in July, I'm a student here. I'm not going to be here to be able to vote.
Do you think that'll hurt the Greens?
Probably. So I live just up there and I get a leaflet from the Green Party almost every day. And you get nothing from Labour, so it's kind of like...
By electing a Green MP, you'll be leading the way to protecting the NHS and proper care for our parents and grandparents, to renewable, clean energy and affordable homes, to making big corporations and the super rich pay their fair share, to paying teachers and nurses what they deserve, to showing humanity to refugees and standing up and calling for a ceasefire.
In terms of the voters here, who are we talking about in terms of their age, housing, work? What is Bristol Central in that regard?
So Bristol Central's fairly young. It's got Bristol University in it, and it has the University of West of England just on its border, so there's students from UWE here too. Bristol University also has a high retention rate, so a lot of its graduates stay in the area, and quite a lot of young professionals too. Lots of private renters. It's nearly 50% private rented accommodation in the constituency, which is one of the highest in the country.
Big risk facing you now in this election is both the two main parties and the media will say it's Labour or the Tories, and you're going to get squeezed. That Green vote will just get squeezed and squeezed as people go, well, I'm going to have to vote Labour to get rid of the Tories. How are you going to rebut that? Because that will cut through everything.
It's clear that the Conservatives are on their way out now. It is going to be a Labour-led government. So the question for voters is, do they want Labour with nobody there to challenge them from the left so that they can continue U-turning on things like their climate investment pledge, 28 billion, supporting renters' rights, public ownership of public services and so on? Then these are all issues that voters bring up with me on the doorstep as reasons why they've switched from voting Labour to voting Green.
With Bristol now, some people, Bristol Central, people might go, look, this constituency is actually quite unique. It's kind of this, obviously, very high number of private renters, quite politically engaged younger people who, it's kind of alternative counterculture. So people would look at that and go, well, if you win here, you can't really extrapolate that because this is just a very Bristol Central specific case study.
So Bristol certainly is a very progressive city. There was some research that came out recently that showed it's the most Remain and the most pro-migration constituency in the country. But I don't think it's as unique as all that. And I think you only need to look at our local election results this May and over the last 5 years to see that support for the Green Party is growing across the country, across a range of demographics, younger and older, rural and urban.
How do you feel about your chances then? Do you think come polling day, we're end of May now, as I speak to you, beginning of July, it's not that long away, Labour, they're going to have a huge amount of media attention, all the rest. How confident do you think you can unseat? Let's not forget, Thangam Debonnaire is a shadow cabinet minister. I don't think Labour want to lose her. They find that quite embarrassing, even if they win a big landslide.
I'm going to work really hard for this seat. I'm certainly not taking it for granted, but I think we have a good chance here. Speaking to voters, people already know that Bristol Central is a Labour Green marginal, which means that there is no risk of the Conservatives getting in here locally. and it's very clear that the Conservatives are on their way out of government. So people can make a straight choice. Whose policies do they prefer? Labour's, with Starmer continuing to backslide on policies every couple of weeks before he even gets into power, let alone what's he going to be like once he gets into government? Or do they want to elect a Green MP who will stick by my principles and pull whoever forms the next government, let's be honest, it's going to be Labour, in the right direction on workers' rights, on renters' rights, on housing, on peace?
3, 2, 1, Green!
Do you guys have that backlog, which at the moment is costing the UK taxpayer £8 million per day? And a cost of living crisis in particular, that's unforgivable. But given that that's leaving people who may be a danger to this country, unprocessed, languishing, waiting for a decision, that's just not okay for UK security.
Hey, thank you, it's Owen. Just did a quick video about the election, so we're going around and... Okay. So just wondering, how's it going? How's the campaign going?
We're just about to go out canvassing.
Oh, I know, but we just want to ask a couple of questions, if that's all right. I was just wondering, on Gaza, it keeps coming up at the moment. Do you think arms sale embargo, because at the moment it's easy to say...
Netanyahu, if you don't mind, you're actually interrupting.
Do you want to drop us an email and we'll set something up for a proper
Well,
chat?
I don't know, it's just a bit of video. It's just very basic questions. Seems a bit fragile. I don't know, just
we
what...
are running to a very, very tight schedule.
No, I know, this would take 2 minutes, though. Just 2 minutes. What do you...
If you want to drop us an email, we can set something up, I think.
But I just...
We have got a session
I know, it's just
planned.
basic. There's an election on, a bit of scrutiny. Why do you think the Greens are doing so well? Why do you think... Are you worried about them?
Shall we...
Worried about the Greens?
I think we'll do this.
Really don't want to talk... Do you not think it's a bit odd not to...
Yeah, I think just, like, we're happy to set something up,
Right,
probably.
but
if we
would probably...
Like, if you drop us an email, we've got,
Yeah, but I mean...
fix something in the diary,
just
but...
normally
I know, I completely understand, but
Right.
just coming
Do
at
you don't
it
want to
like
say how the
this.
campaign's going? Nothing you want to talk about it?
I think we'll set something up if that's
Right.
all right, Owen.
Okay. Pleasure. I don't know, just in an election, journalist comes up to you, wants to talk about your election campaign. Might as well just answer a couple of questions. Seems what's she worried about? What's she scared of? Yeah, I just think basic scrutiny. It's an election, but obviously they had other ideas. Some would say that's brittle. Are the Greens going to unseat a Labour shadow cabinet minister on the very night that Labour win a landslide? It's definitely possible. But it's nailed on. I think they're not taking it for granted. I think Labour kind of rattled about it and they'll definitely throw everything at this seat. What I would say is the Greens are definitely rising. You can see that the amount of local councillors they've got that have gone up in places like Bristol. And if they don't win this time, then they're definitely in pole position to win the next time because, let's be honest, when Labour in power, people are going to get disillusioned. And I think what we'll see, regardless of whether they win any seats on election night, is the Greens are going to be in a position to tap into the disillusionment that people will feel under a Labour government when they won't invest in public services because of their fiscal rules, not taxing the rich, when our privatised utilities keep crumbling, when young people are still saddled with debt for going to university, when the housing crisis hasn't obviously been resolved, when our infrastructure and all the rest is still crumbling around us. I just think people will be like, well, where's the change? And I think that's when Greens will get a hero. But the other alternative is, if you look to places like Germany, it will be the far right who will be in pole position. That is something to bear in mind because Labour are going to win this, no question about that. The Tories are buggered. But I think amidst all the obvious jubilation getting rid of the Tories, what comes next is going to be interesting, and the role the Greens will play, that will be interesting too. Please like and subscribe, do leave your comments as ever, and help us keep the show on the road at patreon.com/ownjones84 so we can make more videos. I'll speak to you soon.